I'm Jordan Hatfield. This is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we talk The Accountant 2 with Kolter. The Accountant 2 is a 2025 action thriller directed by Gavin O'Connor, starring Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, and Cynthia Dye Robinson. Look, despite Christian Wolf's enthusiasm, I suggest you at least consider amending your tax returns for unclaimed depreciation. Get in, we're going cinephiling. Kolter, what's up, my man? How you doing today?
Good, dude. How are you? Where's Chase?
I know, man. That guy's out like dancing with some chick. Apparently it's prom weekend or something, and he's busy.
Oh, excuses.
Dude, he's got to get his priorities straight, man.
Yeah.
Got to get his priorities straight. That's okay. We're going to party without him.
Yep. Okay. Life goes on.
So when was the last time you saw The Accountant, the original film?
Probably shortly after it came out, which was, as you know, about 8 years or so ago. So I rewatched it before I saw this. But it had been some time. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I also revisited it before watching The Accountant 2. But what did you think of the original?
I liked it. It was... Ben Affleck gets I don't know, he doesn't have the best rap for his acting roles. I mean, apart from Dazed and Confused, which was maybe one of the first things I saw him in, that was a unique role for him. Ever since then, he's kind of been playing Ben Affleck in a lot of things. And The Accountant was a little bit different. He was playing a much different character. It was interesting. It was different. And he was good in it, I thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked The Accountant. I didn't love it. I thought it was mediocre.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I do think that Ben Affleck was doing something different here.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that Ben Affleck was the right person for this role. I feel like if this story had a lead that was more capable, more able to express some emotional depth, it really would have done this story some good. I feel like Ben Affleck was the weakness, but I felt like the story was good, and the supporting cast was good, and it was a unique story. I mean, there were some tropes and some predictable plot points, but for the most part, I found it entertaining. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
There needs to be a bit of care taken. If you're going to cast somebody like Ben Affleck in a movie like The Accountant or The Accountant 2, you have to be careful to avoid his portrayed depiction coming across as a gimmick. Otherwise, you can make the argument, they're using his, whether it's autism or OCD or a combination thereof. It's kind of a careful line. So to your point, man, a little added complexity, had it been another actor, might have been a more effective angle to play. So
yeah, those are my thoughts on Accountant 1. But, Accountant 2 is doing better with both critics and audiences. People are really liking this film.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. I enjoyed this more than the first one. If you've seen a movie like The Accountant, and then you hear, The Accountant 2, you think, okay, what red box am I going to get this from? Or, that sounds like a direct-to-streaming concept, The Accountant 2. Like, this is an unexpected, but I thought surprisingly enjoyable sequel. I mean, it's got some competent action. It's got some heart. It's got some well-written characters. And I think it's actually more entertaining than the original.
Sounds like we're going to have a good conversation today, Kolter, because I didn't like it as much as the first one.
Okay. Well, tonally, it's very different.
Very different.
The first movie is so serious, and this is far more comedic. I think most of the comedy works, but tonally, it's different. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, there is an addition of comedy here.
Yeah.
They add some joke to the film, and I did appreciate that.
Yeah, and it comes from an unexpected source, which is John Bernthal. We've gotten to know him as kind of the hard-ass Frank Castle in Daredevil, playing the Punisher. And he's typecast in a lot of movies as kind of the gruff badass. And a lot of the comedic moments and a lot of the heart in this movie comes from his character. It's interesting.
One of my favorite scenes in the film is when Braxton is sitting in a hotel room and he's at a dining table and he's across from an unknown woman who's clearly in distress. And he's talking to her like nothing. And I'm just like, what's going on here? What's the situation? And all of a sudden he stands up and he walks out and there's just dead people all around the room.
Yeah, right.
And it didn't show any of it. It didn't show any. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a really cool scene. Probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, like that's his thing. He goes in, murders 12 people, then antagonizes the last person that he has no intention of killing by asking annoying questions and finishing a tub of ice cream in front of them.
Speaking of annoying questions, I got to ask you, what do you call a large pile of cats?
I don't know. What do you call a pile of cats?
A meowton.
Okay.
And that right there, Kolter, that right there is exactly how I felt through some of the jokes in this film. Some of them were kind of dumb, ill-timed, and just not that funny. The whole corgi thing, like when he's all pissed off walking around in his underwear, did not land for me.
It was a little weird.
I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, that was the first kind of major shifting of gears, I think, from the first movie to the second movie. Aside from the fact that, Christian Wolf's character is played so straight in the first Accountant, and then our first introduction to him in this movie is him sitting down at the Boise Romance Festival.
A
romance festival, yeah. in which he's, accessed the algorithm and reprogrammed it to his advantage. But, there's some comedy in there. I think for the most part, it works for me. It was just such a weird tonal shift from the first one to the second one. And the character's not quite as consistent as he is from the first movie either. It's just strange.
Not all the jokes were as bad as My Meowton. Some of them did land. The whole Terry bit about Toto and the Wizard of Oz. That was pretty funny. And the crazy thing is, it's true.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
The dog that played Toto made $125 a week. And the Munchkins made between $50 and $100.
Oh my
the
God,
dog was really paid more.
Crazy.
I don't know if that makes it more funny or less funny.
Yeah, it depends on what mood you're in.
And Terry wasn't the only animal that's been paid more than its human co-stars. Rin Tin Tin was paid better.
Oh, my God.
Lassie made more money than some of its co-stars.
Jeez.
And the monkey from George of the Jungle got paid quite well.
Really? Shit.
Back to Ben Affleck. In the first film, it paints him as this dark and dangerous, morally clouded character that is helping these big crime bosses launder money. He's an accountant that's working with dangerous people.
Yeah.
And yet in the second film, he's portrayed as this moral character who's trying to do good. Yes, he's rough around the edges and he's willing to work outside the bounds of law. Yes, he's got talents that make him dangerous. But he's trying to do good, and I see this as a huge inconsistency in his character. I think that hurts the film.
I don't know that in either film his condition is explicitly defined. You get the sense that he's on the spectrum. You get the sense that there's some very clear OCD traits and things like that. Some of that stuff, there's not necessarily an evolution from that state of being. But yeah, there is this weird kind of tonal shift. It's odd, and we don't. Obviously that affects the dynamic, the relationship between Christian and Braxton, and it really bothers Braxton. He wants to connect to his brother. He wants to get some sense of hey man, do you even really care about me? And he asks him straight up, is it your condition? Is it me? We never really.
Why don't you miss me?
Yeah, we never really
Why
get.
don't you miss me?
Yeah, we never really get a resolution for that. We get a kind of a loose, implied thing towards the very end of the movie. I don't know that it's enough. And so it is odd, to your point. It's odd that there is several inconsistencies, I would say, in Wolf's character. It's weird.
Yeah, and the character bugged me less in the first film. These inconsistencies really stood out more in the second film, and they took me out of it. I didn't like the writing around his character in the second film.
Sure.
Another thing that I did not like about Ben Affleck in this one, and please push back on me if you disagree, was his accent that he adopted.
Yeah, also different. Yeah.
It feels like he's trying to do this Tanner Smith, this light Tanner Smith impression from... You know who Tanner Smith is from Love on the Spectrum?
Yeah.
Dude, he's a social media sensation right now. And it felt like Ben Affleck was trying to tap into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. It was just whoa, Ben,
I don't know.
Back it off, buddy.
Yeah. Again, it's the argument. Were they his choices? Was it the director not noticing that? Because in the first movie, there's a darkness to him. When he's, he comes in to do a job, he's so focused on that job, and his interactions with people are so blatantly awkward. I think on some level, he's aware of how awkward he is with other people, but he doesn't care. I mean, he kind of says it in the second movie. He's like, I'm just who I am. So to go from that, where you see, like you said, he's working with bad players, he kind of wears that on his face a little bit. And it's if he's a gray character, he's more towards the black end of the spectrum than the white. And it was strange choices. And I feel like it was just for the sake of kind of upping the entertainment value in terms of playing into the awkwardness and trying to develop humor from those moments than it was more being true to the character.
And to be clear, I like this character. I really do.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to this character, and I just wish we could have had a lead that was a little bit more talented, that was capable of bringing the character off the page with some emotional depth, who could walk this line with a little bit more precision than Ben Affleck could.
Agree.
I think there's a lot to this character we could have explored, and I just think Ben Affleck was incapable of bringing that to the screen.
Yeah. It almost approaches, it's a little farcical, almost.
I did like John Bernthal in this film.
He's great.
I thought he was the redeeming quality of the film for me.
Completely agree, man. He was given a much more prominent role in the sequel, and he seemed to be having a good time. He seemed to be having fun in this. I mean, his comedic timing and his delivery was actually pretty good. I thought he and Affleck's chemistry as brothers was also really good. But yeah, he was the best part of this movie. I mean, that whole bar fight scene was great when Affleck's character kind of goads this guy into a fight because he knows his brother's going to enjoy it. And instead of seeing it play out, we just see Bernthal like bleep at the camera, and then there's this cool like freeze frame, and the rest of it's just implied. I thought that was great, man.
Yeah, it was. You know, I was glad to see that so much of the original cast came back.
Yeah.
I hate it when they do a sequel and they have to replace characters with different actors. It's distracting. Right. In fact, the only character that I noticed that didn't come back was Anna Kendrick.
Yep. Yeah.
Other than that, the entire cast was back.
Yeah.
That's important in a sequel, in my opinion.
Sure.
And I was glad to see that.
Yeah, I don't know if there would have been any room for her character in this. I don't know if you agree with that, but would you rather have seen Anna Kendrick's character return or the return of this Treasury agent? I forget her name, Mary Beth.
Her name's Mary Beth Medina.
There we go. Thank you.
Played by Cynthia Addai Robinson.
Yeah.
I don't love Robinson's portrayal of her character here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that she's a bad actress. I just don't love her here. However, she's a familiar face from the first one. She has an important role from the first film, and so I think you got to bring her back. I'm glad she's back.
Okay.
You know?
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know what they would have done with the Anna Kendrick storyline other than to build a romance between her and Christian Wolf, which would have been taking this story in the wrong direction.
Agreed. Yeah, it would have.
Speaking of that, let me make a prediction.
Yeah.
The Accountant 2 has been successful. I think we will see an Accountant 3. I don't
agree.
think that'll surprise anybody.
Yeah.
My prediction is The Accountant 3 goes in this wrong direction and tries to develop a romance between Christian Wolf and somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the girl he met square dancing. You know, he writes her name and number on his hand.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe it's somebody new. I don't know. But my prediction is it's going to be a love story. It's going to go that direction, and it's going to be bad.
Yeah. And then probably throw in a little bit of Braxton and his new cat.
Right? There's no way they're going to leave out the cat.
So there's a couple elements in this movie that I thought were a little bit outlandish. But Danielle Pineda, who played Anais, which I thought, you know, she was fairly convincing as this kind of sort of female assassin that she suffered horrific car accident, and the trauma to her brain kind of allowed her to access certain mental acuities and things like that. So it was an interesting angle. I can only hear Chase. I can only hear him complaining about all the tech stuff.
Yeah, that wouldn't have sat well with him for sure.
So I thought about him the whole time I was watching that. The whole, you know, they've got this organization of very young people, you know, kids essentially, that are seemingly of the same condition or similar condition as Christian Wolf. You know, they're perhaps on the spectrum or something akin to that. And they're all kind of super tech savvy, and they're using all this technology to kind of gather intelligence and aid Christian Wolf and his plight. I don't know. How'd you feel about the character of Anais and that angle of the kids and their tech skills?
So if Chase were here with us, you're right. He would be absolutely ragging on this aspect of the film, and I would be agreeing with him. This super know-it-all, tech-savvy, eye-in-the-sky that's watching over Christian Wolf and protecting him and accomplishing the impossible at his command. It's bad writing. It's way too easy. It's ridiculous. He would hate it. I also hate it. It is what it is. As far as Daniela Pineda, you know, I really liked her character in this film. I think she was very convincing as this female assassin. I just don't like her backstory.
Yeah, it was just... Was it the same actor? So I walked out of the movie and I thought, was that the same character? They look different. Did I miss something? What the hell?
She looked like a very different actress. I thought they were different actresses, but I don't know. They could have been the same. And if they were the same, they did an incredible job of transitioning this character one to the other because there was a huge difference. You know, I saw the film with my parents, and when we walked out, they were like, wait, who was that? Like, they didn't even recognize it's the same character. Yeah. So it added too much confusion. It led to too many questions. I do not like her backstory, but I did really like her, and I liked her character. I thought she portrayed the character well.
Same.
She made a great assassin.
Yeah, I liked it too, and I kept expecting some kind of... I mean, she has a scene of retribution from a revenge standpoint. She doesn't have the kind of reunion with her son that I thought that character had potentially earned, or that I, as an audience member, kind of wanted to see. You know, we saw a happy enough ending for the kid who was kidnapped, but I expected some kind of reunion between mom and child. It was weird that we didn't get that. Perhaps that's fodder for Accountant 3. I don't know. But
speaking of children, here's another thing that didn't work for me. The whole children death scene at the end. To me, it felt so cheap. It didn't feel like it fit in the story. It felt like a cheap attempt to hit at your emotions and create this heroistic ending.
Yeah.
I just felt like, what are we doing here?
Right.
There's no mention of children being kidnapped earlier in the film. I mean, there's little glimpses of it, but it's not a point in the story. It's not a pivotal point in the story. We move along, and all of a sudden, randomly, I got to go save these kids.
Yeah.
And it just felt cheap to me.
Yeah, it's not a driver. I don't disagree with that at all. It wasn't properly set up, and it did feel kind of like a cheap hook to kind of give them one final boss, one final mission to kind of, tie the brothers together and give us albeit a decent action scene, but yeah,
it just felt like a cheap attempt to grab a hold of your emotions and make Christian and Braxton just the heroes of the film. And again, that doesn't play into Christian Wolf's character, in my opinion. This guy's working with gangsters. He's doing the taxes, money laundering, and tax evasion, for really bad people in the first film. That character inconsistency, forgive me for bringing it up again, but that just didn't work for me. You did say that you liked this better than the first film. Why? What is it about Accountant 2 that you like?
It was the humor. I think the chemistry between the two brothers, it was interesting because I think, for me personally, it did make me pause a little bit and think about my relationship with my own brother and as we were growing up, some of the nastier crap I did to him. And it made me kind of, I don't know, man, I was really kind of empathetic to their relationship. So every sibling's got struggles with their sibling. I mean, that's a tale as old as time, but I liked that they kind of delved into that. I liked that John Bernthal, this kind of hard-ass character, his moments of vulnerability were kind of really exemplified in him wanting to have a closer relationship with his brother, man. And so that really kind of resonated with me.
Are you Christian Wolf or are you Braxton?
I'm probably more Christian Wolf, to be honest.
I think I would be Braxton in the relationship with my brother, and I do wonder why he just doesn't miss me that much. I need to ask him.
Yeah, man. So besides from that, definitely the humor. I think the humor worked pretty well. The action was pretty well done, man. It gets a little excessive here and there. I mean, but you see their chemistry kind of not just through the dialogue they have with each other, but how they're moving through these action set pieces and how they're handing each other magazines and grabbing equipment off each other and coordinating their movements with each other. So that chemistry is kind of consistently portrayed throughout. Not just their dialogue, but their actions. And I was entertained. I was really surprised at the humor in this, and I really enjoyed their relationship. And I think that was the major entertaining benefit for me.
Good, dude. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I want to know exactly how much you liked it. Let's go ahead and rate The Accountant 2 on a scale of 1 to 5. What do you got?
Oh, my God. Well, this was a surprisingly enjoyable film. Like, again, not to beat the same drum, but it was funny. It was interesting. The characters were great. John Bernthal was a great surprise. I'd like to see him flex his comedic muscles more often. I think he's actually really talented in that. And I loved how pissed off he was at the kid they just saved because he was hogging his new cat and didn't want to share it. So there was these kind of cute little moments throughout, but some weird character inconsistencies, especially with our main character Christian Wolf, that were just kind of weird and out of place. So I'm going to be a little generous, give it a 4, and the reason why is because I enjoy seeing intentful films written for the screen that aren't remakes. This is a sequel, so I can't say that, but remakes, reboots, this and that. Like I am appreciating more and more that we're getting something made for the screen as opposed to the same kind of slop that we've been getting. So I have been a little bit more generous lately because of that, but I'll want to eke it into the 4 territory, which again, maybe a little bit too generous, but I had a good time.
Good, man. Again, glad you loved this one. Sitting through this film, I was feeling like this is a 3. I never got bored. I was entertained. There were some writing issues, but nothing that wasn't too easy to overlook. It felt like a 3. And then I left and I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second. So I'm going to come in at 2.5. But know that this rating comes with post-mortem analysis. During the film, I was enjoying myself. It wasn't until after the fact that I thought about it and was like, no, some of these weaknesses are just too big to overlook. Ben Affleck's acting drags the film down a bit. I prefer the first one. But critics are enjoying this film. Audiences prefer this film to the first one. More importantly, Kolter prefers this film to the first one, but we want to know, what do you think of The Accountant 2?
This is kind of a tough movie to make a recommendation for, so I chose something a little weird, but kind of in the same vein. That movie is 1997's Grosse Pointe Blank. Starring John Cusack and Minnie Driver, it's a unique story about a professional assassin who is forced to confront his high school love when he returns to his hometown for the 10th high school reunion. It's a quirky Gen X gem that deserves a watch if you have not seen it. Go check it out.
Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we talk The Thunderbolts. You can also follow us on Letterboxd, Cinetrack, and Instagram. Email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, feedback, or review requests. And please share this episode with your movie-loving friends.